Right. I think everything works. 1 second. Can you hear me? I don't. Uh,
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, yeah.
Perfect. I can hear you too. Muboriz, thank you very much for taking your time and agreeing on this call. Appreciate your time.
Sure, absolutely.
Um,
Great to be here.
yeah, thank you very much. So I think we can straight just jump into the questions, right, and discuss
Sure.
very important questions.
Yeah.
So the first question would be, how important have teamwork and communication been to your success?
I think that uh, communication and teamwork are, one of the critical parts of a business. If you are not able to communicate well, especially in the environment where a lot of people are working from home, and COVID had an impact on that. I think people have realized more and more that communications and making sure that you get good communication done between your team members is critical. So I would say, um, without that, it's impossible. Um, we
Right.
we are able to, when you communicate with your team members, you can tell something. I tell something to my team member to give them a task for them to do an activity or to pass on a message to the wider team. They may understand what I told them in a different way, and they may convey their own message of my message, and they can interpret in a different way and pass on the message to other team members. So clarity of communication is really key for leaders and for CEOs, so that their subordinates and their team members really pass on the message that they have actually passed on and want the wider team to hear.
Right.
So communication is key. Teamwork, without team, you're nothing. There is no value in what you do, and successful businesses only succeed because of having team members that are performing at a very top level.
Right.
So it's critical to any business.
All right.
And
Thank you
communication
very
is
much.
becoming more and more important because of COVID, because people are working remotely. So you have to over communicate whenever you have the chance.
Correct. All right. Thank you very much. The second question would be, what are other skills that are important when working in a team? For example, problem solving, decision making, or conflict resolution. Can you just pick one, let's say, and just elaborate on that?
Well, I think that in terms of if I was to make, I'll pick another one which is outside first. The skills that are important when working in a team is understanding your weaknesses and your strengths and your team members' weaknesses and strengths. Because
Right.
when you do that, then as a team, you're actually able to say, I will give you this task because you're better at marketing. I'll give you this task because you're better at storytelling and selling, and I'll give you this because you're better at documentation. So strength and weakness analysis is very important. But in terms of conflict resolution, that's something I think that team members need to be able to work uh, and figure out how do you actually solve those conflicts and how you're able to come to solutions. So I would
Right.
say conflict resolution is one part of it, and problem solving as well. Problem solving gives an ability for a person to, or for a team to figure out how you can think,
Right.
and how you can really identify solutions by leveraging each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Right. Great. Thank you very much. The third question would be, what do you wish you knew early in your career about teamwork and communication?
I think that I wish I knew earlier that I have to on the communication side, that I have to over communicate my message a number
Mm.
of times. There is a
Right.
saying that you have to say to someone 6 times the same message for them to really remember it.
Mm.
So it's like politician, when you're communicating something, say it at the beginning, in the middle, and then at the end, so that it's really in their brain, and don't be afraid of repeating it again and again, so that people really get it through their head. So I that would be one. Um, and be more transparent when communicating with your team members as a leader in an organization, the more transparency you have, the better it is, because people and team members appreciate transparency now more than ever before.
Absolutely. It means that they are being trusted, right? If things are transparent, it means that there's a mutual trust, right? And which leads to better teamwork.
Yeah, absolutely. Transparency plays an important role, and it's related with trust 100%. Yes.
Excellent.
And then
Thank
team
you.
members go out and create their own ideas and become a much stronger cultural unit for them to be able to stay with the business and continue helping the business grow.
All right. Thank you very much. The following question would be, how important is trust in your work? And can you give an example, please?
So trust in my work is very important. I have team members that report to me, and I need to be able to trust them for them to do their job.
Right.
And that trust takes time to develop. And the way that we do it is we first monitor and, in a way, over manage at the beginning a team member to really make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to do, and then monitoring the results of that output. Once you do that, then you understand how a person behaves and how they're able to do it and monitor their progress. So it's really an example of making sure that you monitor it first, and then put yourself in a position where you're confident that you can trust that they can do it. And you can, once you monitor, then you will know what is good and what is bad in terms of what they're doing, and what you can trust them on and what you
Right.
can't trust them on. And then the stuff that you can't trust them on, you have to have an error log. We have an error log every time a person doesn't do something they're supposed to do. And then they, on a monthly basis, evaluate what they didn't do well. And then we work on them in order for us to build that trust.
Wow.
But another example is when you work with a partner. I'm in the process of getting a business partner who's, has very strong experience. But how do we know? How do we trust each other? Right? It comes from time, looking at references. How long have you known each other? And trust is something that some people get burned. But doing your reference checks and really being a good reader of people, to really meet them as many times as you can to understand who they really are, is very difficult, but it's a skill that I think many successful CEOs have.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So now we know that there are cases, right, when trust is lost. So how do you build trust and how do you recover it if it gets lost, right?
So when the trust is lost, I think that first, it depends on whether you're talking at an employee and employer level. If you're looking at this, where I see a person having done it once, and then there is a loss of trust, then that's where we have to be super transparent by over communicating what happened and what was the problem. Was the person, did they get too much to do things, or did they actually not prioritize and did they not hear you, that they didn't deliver the job? So I think it's understanding the root cause of what happened, and that's where you have to be super transparent and honest with each other. And in having that very honest dialogue, very radical transparency, like Ray Dalio says. And once you have that, that's where you figure out and understand the root cause. And then based on that, then you can make a decision based on that root cause, whether it's worthwhile to repair it or whether it's not impossible. But typically people get given one chance. There is one mistake done, and then can you recover from it? If you can, then great. But if you do it the second time, then typically many people don't. They lose trust.
Right. And it also depends, right, in the area, in which area the trust was lost, right? Because like I think we can categorize that, and there are like certain levels, right? Which levels that are like red, and you cannot, do it even once. But then there are like levels, before that where I mean it's possible to work it on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there are levels to it for sure. It depends on how big, what was the issue, and if it's something that is small and you can work on, it's definitely, something that can be looked at, but
Fixed.
if
Yep.
it's big, then typically, yeah, of course, there are scenarios where it's like red, yellow, and like
Green, let's say. I don't know.
green. Yes, yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Thank you very much. And then the last question would be, which is, I know, would be very valuable personally for me for myself.
Mhm.
It is about what habits you would recommend that a new master in finance graduate student develop about teamwork and communication.
What habits recommend in
Right.
terms of so I would say you'll I think that people in finance will be interacting more and more with technology. And the
We are.
technology in finance will be getting more and more intimate. And what that means is that technologists and finance people will be speaking more and more. And
Right.
so what that means that a finance person, if they are able to do a bit of code and understand tech a little bit more than another finance person, that gives them the edge. So training yourself and being able to learn how to code puts you at a very different level, because you can look at joining a fintech that can become a unicorn, $1 billion business. But when you have those interviews with those managers, if they know that you know how to code, how to write code, and you understand that how difficult it is to write code and what is in the mind of that coder, then you speak to him in a very different
Right.
language, because there is no divide. Typically, there's a big divide in communication between technologists and finance people, because finance are numbers driven, technologists are driven by code.
Right.
So knowing how to speak with them will be key for you to be able to either build your own business or go out and work in the employment market. And
Wow.
it gives you that differentiation.
Well, I guess then we are on the right track because right now we're having both finance classes and then data analysis and coding classes at the same time. So I think we're on the right track and just need to do both and excel
Yeah,
at both so that in
I
the
would
future
I
it
would
pays off.
also I would also say that go out and speak and interact with technical people. Go into
Right.
different boot camps and make them as friends and really get into the mind of how do they operate and how they think, and that puts you on another level. And that gives you a very in-depth understanding of how those guys think, because once you start to understand that, it's one thing you trying to do code, it's another you speaking with an experienced person who can tell you what that process looks like and what you need to do to be able to understand that language and communicate with them very well. Yeah.
Right. All right, Boris, these were the questions, and you answered them all, in in the best way possible. And thank you very much
Well,
for your time and for the precious advice and knowledge you've been sharing. Thank you so much, and I hope to
well,
see you and meet you again. All right, have a good day.
absolutely. Great. Thank you, Sadiq. Thanks.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye.